the meeting to order. I am going to call the meeting to order. Thank you very much. Is Laura Lee down there?
She's coming.
There she is. Laura Lee, please call the roll.
Stu Boyd,
Here.
Amy Jordan, Pam Howard,
Here.
Don Kirk,
Here.
Barbara Cruz,
Here?
Alexander Wilson,
Here.
Nancy Mandel.
Here. Thank you, Laura Lee. Stu, would you please lead us in the pledge?
Sure. Flag's up there for those of you who are looking for it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Stu. And Don, would you please read the mission statement?
The Thompson School District will be a school district that empowers, challenges, and inspires students, faculty, staff, parents, school leaders, and community members to learn, achieve, and excel.
Thank you, Don. Adoption of the agenda for today, April 19th, 2023. Are there any changes to the agenda for tonight's meeting? Hearing none, I will take a motion to adopt the agenda as printed.
So moved.
Second.
That was Dawn and Amy, Pam that seconded it. Laura Lee, please call the roll.
Stu Boyd,
Aye.
Amy Jordan,
Aye.
Pam Howard,
Aye.
Don Kirk,
Aye.
Barbara Cruz,
Aye.
Alexander Wilson,
Aye.
Nancy Mandel.
Aye. Thank you. The motion to adopt the agenda passes unanimously. Approval of the minutes. We'll go for approval of the minutes for March 22nd, 2023 first. Does anybody have any changes or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, I will take a motion to approve the minutes for March 22, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
So I believe it was Stu and Dawn. Laura Lee, please call the roll.
Stu Boyd,
Aye.
Amy Jordan,
Aye.
Pam Howard,
Aye.
Don Kirk,
Aye.
Barbara Cruz,
Aye.
Alexander Wilson,
Aye.
Nancy Mandel.
Aye. Okay, the next one we have to approve is the minutes for our last study session, which was April 4th, 2023. Does anyone have any changes to the minutes for April 4th, 2023? Hearing none, I will take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
So it was Dawn and Pam. Thank you very much. Laura Lee, please call the roll.
Stu Boyd,
Aye.
Amy Jordan,
Aye.
Pam Howard,
Aye.
Don Kirk,
Aye.
Barbara Cruz,
Aye.
Alexander Wilson,
Aye.
Nancy Mandel.
Aye. Thank you. And motion passes for both of our approval of the minutes. Next part of the agenda will be public participation, and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Schaefer.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the Board of Education. Quite a bit to report this evening. I'll first start by acknowledging the town of Berthoud. Immediately preceding this meeting, we had an opportunity to eat dinner and engage with the town council of Berthoud, as well as the city manager, mayor, and other members of their leadership team. Had good conversation, lots of good questions that were asked. We always appreciate, we're here twice a year, once in October and once in April, and it was a great opportunity to meet with them. We also want to thank Berthoud High School for hosting us this evening. Again, twice a year, we hold our board meetings down here in the Berthoud community. Certainly have enjoyed a very warm welcome, lots of great hospitality, great schools down here in Berthoud, so we certainly appreciate the community. This morning, we hosted our final high school student advisory committee meeting. Representatives from each of our 5 high schools, as well as Loveland Classical, were invited to participate. Our topic was safety and security, so our students provided us with lots of feedback, perceptions, input, questions around safety and security, and a lot of great ideas. We were joined by board members Barb Cruz, Stu Boyd, and Nancy Rumfeld, who also attended. Monday, had the opportunity to visit the Lago Vista community, also with a few board members. Amy Doran and Nancy Rumfeld joined. I started first attending an elementary tutoring session, so I got to work with a kindergartner from Cottonwood Plains. We worked on phonics, we worked on reading, and then he beat me several times at Connect 4, so that was a highlight. Then moved on, they had a student leadership group from the Lago Vista community that met with me, so it was comprised of 5th graders from Cottonwood Plains, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders from Lucille Irwin Middle School, and then 9th through 12th graders from Loveland High School. So about 15, 20 students met with me, and it was illuminating. It was great to hear some of their feedback and some of their questions. Then we hosted the community session, and so we met with a dozen or so community members. The community had lots of great questions. We were joined by our 3 principals from the feeder schools in that community as well, who also engaged with the community. So this was our 2nd visit to the Lago Vista community, and certainly have more planned for next year as well. This Friday night, we'll be attending the Berthoud Bash, actually in Loveland, but it is the Berthoud Bash that's going to be at the Embassy Suites in Loveland. But the Berthoud Bash is a yearly event, fundraising event for the Berthoud Schools Fund, raising funds and resources for the 4 awesome schools here down in Berthoud. And so it's a Hawaiian theme this year, so I get to wear my Hawaiian shirt, which I wear once every 6 years. So that'll be fun to take out. Okay, so we have a number of groups that we invited to join us this evening, and so we're going to first start with Daniel's Scholarship winners. And so I am going to offer congratulations to Berthoud High School's Jesse Hatton and Thompson Valley High School's Allie Sanders. If you can stand. So a really big deal to be named Daniel Scholar winners. Let me tell you what you were clapping for. The Daniel Scholarship Program offers a comprehensive 4-year college scholarship that provides financial and personal support focused on helping Daniel Scholars succeed in college and in life. Daniel Scholarship can be used at any accredited nonprofit college or university in the United States. It is highly competitive. It is a very big deal. We are super proud of Jesse and Allie. So if we could have one more round of applause, it's a big deal. We also have 2 teams that did extraordinarily well at FBLA, Future Business Leaders of America. So first, we're going to recognize Berthoud High Schools. So if you can stand and actually come up front. And there's the whole team, so yep, come on up in front. We'd love to recognize you, and I will let you know some of the amazing things that this team did. Dress for Success, that's awesome, I like it.
Looks like that, that's awesome.
So please join us in congratulating Berthoud High School's Future Business Leaders of America. These students just really did an outstanding job at the recent State Leadership Conference. The group's national qualifiers include Ben Sondheim, who took first in Introduction to Information Technology, Cayman Freeman, who took first in Cybersecurity, and Jack Houchin and Brian Lawless, who took third in Computer Game and Simulation Programming. The 2023 National Leadership Conference will be held in June 27th and through the 30th in a very cool climate of Atlanta, Georgia. So congratulations to Berthoud High School's award-winning team. So I'm going to maybe invite you to sit in the first row because we're going to take a picture with you in a second. But I now want to call up Thompson Valley High School's team, who I think is also here. Thompson Valley, are you here? There you are. Come on, clap. So we want to congratulate the Thompson Valley High School Future Business Leaders of America students who also competed at the FBLA State Leadership Conference. We're extremely proud of their achievements, which include the following. Joshua Belluno, Cooper Burleson, and Patrick Tucker captured second place in computer game programming. Tate Charbonneau won second place in public service announcement, and Chance Hill took third place in the help desk. In addition, the following Thompson Valley High School students finished in the top 10: E.J. Dotson, Aiden Caldwell, Isaac Kreutzer, Jaden Fitzpatrick, Carson Holmes, Chris Brown, and Matthew Phillips. Thompson Valley students, we're super proud of you as well. That is amazing. Great job. So we would love to, awkwardly, because we'll make room, but we'd love to take pictures with all of our students, as well as our 2 Daniel Scholars. So if we can invite the board and students, we'd like to take a photograph with you.
Get up.
Continuing on with my report, I'm going to ask Vivian Pankow to come forward. Vivian has been named our new interim principal of Mary Blair Elementary School. And so, Vivian, if you can, and I'm going to say some nice things about you. Upon completing her bachelor's degree in elementary inclusive education from Minnesota State College and University, Vivian was the family programming supervisor at YMCA of the Rockies. Here, she was responsible for supervising and evaluating 40 seasonal staff members. She also created, offered, and led activities for guests. Following 3 years there, Vivian started her teaching career at East Grand School District as a K-2 science teacher. After 1 year at that level, she then moved to 5th grade, where she remained for 2 years. During her time at East Grand, she implemented positive behavior plans for students while developing and creating effective and engaging lessons based on standards and curriculum. Vivian came to Thompson in 2018 and started as a 5th grade teacher at Mary Blair Elementary. She continued in that position for 4 years until taking the position of academic behavioral and interventionist. In this position, Vivian provided academic instruction and intervention to small groups of 4th and 5th grade students, supported staff and students through utilization of de-escalation strategies, development of social emotional learning skills, and ongoing support of restorative practices. She also facilitated weekly PLCs and participated in weekly ESS meetings. Vivian will be receiving her master's degree in educational leadership and principal licensure from UNC in May and is waiting on her principal's license. Her experience with the staff, students, and Mary Blair community makes her the perfect choice for the interim principal role. Vivian is she's off to a strong start, and congratulations on this position.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm really glad to be here as the interim principal of Mary Blair Elementary over the next, several weeks. I am looking forward to the opportunity to provide that consistency and that continuity to our students, staff, and families. I feel like that's really important. I'm also looking forward to continuing to ensure that we are offering that high-quality instruction and those opportunities that aid in the growth, achievement, and development of our students. And considering that this is our last year as Mary Blair Elementary, I am looking forward to maintaining that sense of celebration we have and fostering those moments that will allow us to create a lasting legacy for our school. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Olivia. I'd now like to invite Kathy Sather to come forward. Kathy has now been recommended, is on hopefully for your approval this evening, the next principal of Garfield Elementary. And here comes Kathy. So for the past 9 years, Kathy Sather has been the principal at Monroe Elementary School, where she developed a positive culture and climate at a Title I school. She developed an instructional vision to address turnaround and at-risk status of Monroe. She also collaborated with teachers and stakeholders to create and implement an innovation plan as a personalized learning school. Prior to becoming a principal, Kathy spent 2 years as an early literacy TOSA and 17 years in a combination of positions at Namaqua Elementary School. Those positions included instructional coach, gifted and talented teacher, and both a general ed and special education teacher. During her time at Namaqua, Kathy was the student intervention team facilitator, a reading and math intervention trainer for Fast Math, Math Navigators, Read Well, Source to Success. As the gifted and talented teacher, Kathy created advanced learning plans, assessed and identified gifted students. Before coming to TSD, Kathy was a teacher for the Long Beach Unified School District in California, where she taught second grade for 2 years and led a literacy program before and after school for first and second grade students for 1.5 years. Kathy received her bachelor's degree in elementary and special education from UNC and holds a master's degree from CSU in educational leadership. Kathy's vast experience in elementary education, as well as working in a Title I school setting, makes her a great individual for Garfield. Kathy, congratulations. We're excited that you're continuing as principal.
So Dr. Schaefer, Madam President and Board, thank you very much for this opportunity to continue to serve in Thompson Schools. I'm really excited about this opportunity to lead in an integrated arts school. Takes me back to a lot of my passion while I was at Namaqua. I spent a lot of time with Odyssey of the Mind and Lego Robotics and a lot of enrichment things. And I have long been a Loveland community member, and that idea to get deeper into integrating arts is going to be a really fun and exciting challenge. And as we finish the year, like Vivian, we are looking at celebrating well as Monroe closes and becomes a part of the new Peakview community, that we go there with enthusiasm and excitement, and so it's good in both ways.
Congrats, Kathy.
Thank you.
So we next want to move on to the top of Thompson Awards. As you know, each month at each of your meetings, these are peer-nominated awards where staff members or community members have opportunities to nominate someone in each of our 3 employee groups. So we have APT, licensed, and classified. And this evening, we actually have from 2 of our employee groups, we had all 3. I will mention by name Kylie Baker, who's not able to attend. She was our employee, or APT. She was nominated by Kim Downing, and so she was the APT recipient. But tonight, I first want to start with classified. So I want to call up to the podium right over here Holly Mann, who's a media specialist at Mary Blair, and Holly was nominated by Karen Schumate, Angie Schliak, Amy Emsing, and Becky Roach. And so Holly and our group, if you can come forward, that'd be great.
Good evening. Holly Mann willingly and cheerfully supports our school in a multitude of different areas. She supports our large kindergarten class by being an extra pair of hands during many of their activities, assisting with data collection, using our progress monitoring assessments, and planning for and teaching an intervention group. In the rest of the building, she makes copies, creates materials, and supports the teachers in all grade levels. Holly is also a leader of our student council. In this role, she plans assemblies and teaches our older grade levels to be leaders in our building. She empowers older students to use their talents to serve. She's an expert in that area. Holly also participates in several of our committees, including Connections Committee and the Leadership Committee. In addition to helping the entire staff, she does her own job in the library brilliantly. The students love her read-alouds, her book fairs are always a huge success, and she also helps facilitate online tutoring during some of the library classes. Holly is an important part of the positive behavior support in our school community. She makes signs and teaches expectations to all students during her daily recess duties. She warmly greets and cares for the needs of students while outside several times a day. On top of all this support, Holly is also great at lending a listening ear and gives the best comforting hugs. Holly never lets us down and works selflessly while also working on her own degree in education right now. She is a superhero.
Our school would not run without Holly. She helps out in all areas of our building. She is the first to say she can help out with something, and it doesn't matter if it's in her job description or not. She takes pride in knowing that our school is running well and does everything in her power to make it happen.
Holly plays an integral part in our school. She is more than just a librarian. She is at all recess duties, on many committees, runs student council, and so much more. On top of that, she is going to school to complete her degree. She is supportive of all staff and students. She holds students to high standards in a caring way, and we are so grateful to have her.
Holly is so much more than our librarian. She works extremely hard and is one of the most dedicated teachers that I have ever met. She genuinely cares so deeply about people and kids, and Holly goes above and beyond for staff, students, and families at Mary Blair each and every day. She is a blessing to so many people and deserves to know what a huge impact she is leaving on so many hearts.
Holly, congratulations. We have a little plaque up there for you, and we will take a picture with you in just a moment. But congratulations, Holly. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Next, we want to recognize our licensed staff, Top of Thompson Award winner, Andrea Perrone. She's the choir director at Mountain View High School, and Andrea was nominated by Pete Taves. So Andrea and Pete, if you can come forward, please, and congratulations.
Try not to screw this up. Andrea directs the choirs here at Mountain View High School and is also the director of our musical theater program, and the results are always outstanding. Last year, she also taught choir at High Plains and Riverview in addition to her duties here at Mountain View in order to build their programs. And as a result of her hard work, High Plains and Riverview hired a choir teacher to split time between their buildings, and the Mountain View choir program grew substantially. She is a wonderful role model for her students, demonstrating care, empathy, and professionalism every day. Andrea demonstrates her leadership outside of TSD as well by chairing the Combined League Honor Choir and is a founding member of the NoCo Singers, a professional choral ensemble, and she is an incredible asset to TSD.
Andrea, congratulations. And so if Holly could come forward, and board, if we could take a picture with our two Top of Thompson winners. So last but certainly not least, as part of the superintendent report is, as you know, at each of our meetings, we spotlight and showcase one of our amazing schools here in the Thompson School District. And tonight, we are going to invite our friends from Ivy Stockwell Elementary to please come forward. We have Principal Anne Marie Sanchez, and it looks like she has some guests with her.
Madam President, Dr. Schaefer, members of the board, at Ivy Stockwell as a STEM school, we don't just say that we do STEM, but that we are STEM, and our students this evening are here to share information, which is an extension of our learner profiles, which is our enrichment activities after school. And I'm really proud that each one of them made a poster and produced a speech here to share with you about each of the different enrichment opportunities we have. And I make sure that I have to recognize all of our many sponsors, our community and parent volunteers, because we couldn't do it without them. And our first one up is Delaney.
Hi, my name is Delaney Patterson. I'm in first grade. I'm representing Ivy Cares. We have to be globally aware and be a collaborator, like counting meal caps, planting fruit and vegetables. We pull weeds. We persevere by picking up trash. We are empathetic because we help the earth. We are flexible because we have to change our plans. Another thing we do is let people have our fruits and veggies. I love doing Ivy Cares. You would too. Hi, I am Audrey Henry. I am in second grade. I am presenting Music Club. You can learn new things by playing music. In Music Club, when you perform in front of an audience and be globally aware to show the crowd what you got, you will see it is fun. When you play, you can be brave and the crowd will love it a lot. You can persevere when you have to keep the beat with the music. When you show the world what you got, you can be a star.
I'm Rebecca Brown, a two-time winner of my division in the chess tournament of the Thompson School District, and I represent Chess Club. Chess Club is a fun, interactive club where we are critical thinkers, are flexible, and persevere through almost anything. Hi, I'm Sarah Freeman. I'm in fourth grade. I am representing Wonders of the Wild Club. This club is fun and interactive. We meet each week to talk about a different subject each time. We are globally aware because we think about nature, we reduce, reuse, and recycle. We also pick up trash. We communicate with each other because we listen to each other's ideas. We are active when we run and play games together. We meet outside so we get fresh air and sunshine. We also use integrity with each other and with the environment. We learn amazing things about nature also, such as when we learned about dinosaur fossils and about camouflage. In my opinion, Wonders of the Wild is a fun and informative club. I am also representing Battle of the Books for my school. Battle of the Books is a fun team club where we read books and go against other schools to answer questions about them. We communicate well during our competitions. We each listen to each other's ideas. We also collaborate so that we can learn our goals. We went to grand battles, the finals, and we collaborated together, so we won. We won this trophy up here. Never mind, okay. This club teaches perseverance. We tried really hard every competition. We also were flexible when one strategy didn't work. As you can see, Battle of the Books is a fun and interactive club. Hi, my name is Carly Saley. I'm in 3rd grade. I am representing Sewing Club. This club is great because we learn the basics of sewing and it's fun. We use math when we measure our fabric. We also find creative solutions to our problems. Sewing Club is awesome, and we are lucky to have it at our school.
She's wearing her apron she made.
Hi, I'm Cadence Curley. I created a club called Kindness Club. It's hard to create this club, but it was worth it for more kindness in the school. In Kindness Club, we write kind notes and work together to make them better and make everybody feel included in the school, so we can try to be more empathetic. We also show initiative to come up with new ideas to spread kindness. So sometimes we also show perseverance by trying to solve problems, even if they are hard to be solved. In Kindness Club, we don't only be kind to the teachers. We only be kind to the students. We are also kind to the teachers. So we show integrity and flexibility in helping the teachers in this way. We also are good communicators because we listen to others' feelings and understand them. So in this way, we are also globally aware. And we can be a critical thinker as well because we know what to believe with these small conflicts. We love that more people are kind to one another.
Hi, my name is Landon. I will be representing LEGO Robotics. LEGO Robotics is where we collaborate to build code and strive with our accomplishments together as a team. We were proud that we were placed 2nd in the district LEGO Robotics clubs. I like that we worked together and we were able to be successful. I also have a robot that we built.
So let's pass it on and bring it back.
Hi, my name is Allison. I'm representing Art Club. Our club is good for learning to communicate your ideas. Also, we get to be innovative because we work through and create new projects. We get to use new art mediums. Hello. Hello, I am Officer Kyron, and Representative Clyde is here. As members of Student Council, we think Student Council has a little bit of every STEM profile. But something that's really helped us understand the school's needs is being globally aware, like when we donated clothes and food to the homeless. We have shown integrity by never lying to the students we report to, and we try to help in any way we can. We collaborate with all other student council members. And then communicate to the staff and students around decisions made like a penny order, spirit weeks, caring food drive, and more. Students
Student council is great. We work together to make the school a better place.
Nice job, and thanks again to everybody for all their support with all of our after-school clubs.
Well, thank you, Ivy Stockwell. We'd love to take a picture with the students, and since they did such a great job at the signs, can they hold it in the picture too? That'd be cool.
Yes.
And that concludes the superintendent report and all of our pictures for this evening.
Well, the next item on our agenda is our board committee reports. And normally I just start down at the end and we go one by one, but I'm going to take precedent privilege. And I'm going to go first tonight, and then I'm just going to scramble you guys up as it all happens. But I wanted to share, I had 3 things that I really wanted to talk about, and one of them was to thank publicly the team that went to Loveland High last week and did a forum with the parents and answered all their questions. We're very thorough. We had a police officer with us, and it was very beneficial. It calmed a lot of concerns and nerves, I guess is what I would say about what the outcome was, and it was really powerful. The second thing, going along that same line, this morning I attended, as Dr. Schaefer said, the advisory council for the high school. And they were asked, we had 4 questions that they were asked in just small groups, and they rotated around. And the questions were from a broad view, how do you feel safe in school? And then the other 3 questions, which I didn't see because I stayed at that one group, but they all narrowed down into some kind of a topic. And the kids were really thoughtful and very amazing in their conversations with each other, and helped us identify a few things that we as a district can work with to make them feel more comfortable. One of them that kind of stood out to me was a student that was in a situation that was really uncomfortable, and so she had options within our district to change schools and find one that made her feel safe. And that's just something that was really important. It kind of stood forward in my mind. The other, communication was really big, but also the practicing of the drills, and it's how frequently they practice the drills, how intensely they practice the drills. So it was really beneficial to just sit and listen to the students process all of those questions about how safe, and the difference too from when they were an elementary student to their process up to being a high school student, and how you don't realize how unsafe some elementary kids feel because they don't have any perspective of what's to happen in a fire drill, and we just kind of tell them this is what it's going to do, but they don't sense it. Up to high school, and the routines, the drills almost become so routine that it was just different to listen to their conversation, and that came up several times, is how the difference in where they were as an elementary to where they are now. And of course, the fact that they're older, they consented, and but none of them had intense fear in it, but because it's been their way of life, which is a sad thing to say, but it's kind of been their way of life. The other thing I want to talk about is I went to, I don't know, maybe it's been 3 weeks or a month ago, to the RISE grant celebration. And I just was so amazed at all of the different opportunities the district schools have for addressing concerns, social and emotional learning that kids are working with, but also how schools pick out an area and go deeply into it to make sure that everybody is comfortable and safe, but also everybody's needs were being met, whether it was the teacher who had concerns and needs that they needed to have addressed to the students. So I just want to highlight those 3 things because they were really impactful for me in my role. And I'm going to pass it to Stu. And I'll call on the next person when Stu's finished.
All right. I had the pleasure in March to attend the spring theatrical presentations by all 4 of the high schools. 3 of them were musicals, 1 was a stage play, and the shows were outstanding. And I'm not going to talk to you about the outstanding shows. I'm going to talk with you about my appreciation for the adults who make those productions possible in terms of working with the kids, whether it's the directors, the choir director, the orchestra lead person, the people who build the sets, etc. I was really happy tonight when Dr. Schaefer presented the Top of Thompson Awards that the person who received the licensed award was the theater director at Mountain View. And that was just an example of the outstanding leadership and work that the students in the Thompson School District high schools have when it comes to theater. And so that's when Barb sent out the note to us, she said, talk about something you want to celebrate. I want to celebrate those staff members who work so hard and so long with the high school students to produce the outstanding performances that they do every year.
Thank you, Stu. I think I'll move to Nancy.
I'm going to talk about the things that I learned, and it comes from a couple different events, but they all have the same theme. So out of the Loveland High School Safe to Tell, one of the things that I realized and learned is that as we're trying to investigate and gather facts, that really what people want to know in the community is they want recognition or acknowledgement of the emotional impact, the human impact that some event has had on them. And I think that's important that we remember that. The other thing is then at the Loveland High School Forum, I learned why Principal Michael James is so loved and respected by current and former students. He represented this district so well in the way that he, with honor, he owned his mistakes and acknowledged and talked about what the way forward was. And I thought he did a great job of building that trust back with the community and the parents. And then as well, the parents themselves, I learned that they really want to partner with us. They simply were asking for more information, more communication. They love the teachers, and while at the same time they were upset with what happened, they also loved the teachers, and they wanted to know how to support them and what the district needs to do to support them better. So I thought these were all great things to learn out of something that it was a difficult situation for so many. Then the last thing is at Lago Vista, learned about how sometimes an incident ripples through the whole community, because at that event, everybody was wanting to know about the safety and security at their school. And so just learning how all of, you have one little event and it just puts forth all these different things. And again, even at that community forum, Michael James was there, as was Principal Jennifer Bradshaw, and there were some issues that were brought up. And again, they did this district proud. They stepped up, they owned it, and said that they would look into it. It was, I found it was really amazing. We have some really great principals in this district, and so those are the things I learned this month.
Thank you, Nancy. Alexandra?
Two things. One, I wanted to extend our congratulations to the Berthoud High School Color Guard team, that they won the state championship in the novice division at the recent Color Guard championships. Awesome. Anybody who spends more than a few seconds with me knows how much I love marching band, and Color Guard is a huge part of that, so it's super exciting for them, and Berthoud's program is really up and coming and exciting to watch. The other thing I wanted to talk about was a few weeks ago at Winona Elementary, I had the opportunity to attend the Muffins with Madames thing that they did, and Nancy was there and Barb was there. And it was really neat. It was just a pretty informal little morning before school started where kids could bring a guest of their choosing. There were mothers and aunts and sisters and friends and grandmothers and all sorts of different people. I sat at a table with a lovely young man, and his sister and mother were there with him. And we shared a muffin and talked a little bit, and then they went off to class. And it was just a nice thing to be part of. And I think a lot of times in the district, even though our district isn't huge, sometimes it feels just really big and really vast, and there's so many people and so many schools and so many things. But as we were talking about just now with the Berthoud town, is we do have this neighborhood school model where the schools are small and are really an integral part of the community and of the neighborhood. And going to events like that where it just feels like a small town thing, and it was a nice thing to be part of and a nice thing to be reminded of.
Thank you, Alexandra. Amy? I can't see anybody here. They're all in a straight row.
So last Thursday, April 13th, was my day. It started in the afternoon with the Conrad Ball versus Lucille Irwin unified basketball game. And I just want to say the student section was huge. The enthusiasm was palpable. It was awesome. Just cheering for both teams. Most of the students were from Irwin, but they were cheering on the Con Ball students, and they knew the names of the Con Ball students, and there was standing room only, and it was just phenomenal. So just the enthusiasm, school spirit, and the support of the athletes was just phenomenal. And then after that, I got to go to Monroe Elementary's Here Our Hands finale. And, I've been to a lot of the concerts over the years, and, we had that little break because of COVID. And I just felt so honored to be there at their finale. The work that they do in that program is just great. And students, the work that the students were doing and the teachers, it was just phenomenal. And it was at Thompson Valley High School. And then at the end, they brought up alumni, so anybody who had been part of the choir, the Hear Our Hands choir, could come up. And there were a handful of alumni students in the audience, and it was just great. And I just feel honored to have been able to attend their last performance. And on the back of their program, they had a quote that I think is very fitting. It says, "Don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened," Dr. Seuss. And it was just, it was a celebration. So I just feel honored. So those are my two.
Thank you. Dawn.
So I wanted to talk about the regional collaborative conversation put on It's for supporting highly mobile youth in Larimer County, put on by the Colorado Department of Education and actually several other Colorado groups. Then they invited people from TSD and PSD. Many of our staff were in panels throughout the day. There was also Estes Park and La Casina and CSU, and many of our youth were there in panels as well, which was really great. And a couple statistics that jumped out at me that I really wanted to just be able to share more broadly is that across U.S. public schools, there are over 1 million students that experience homelessness. And Colorado has over 600 homeless children that are between the ages of 3 and 5 years old. So our youngest children have quite there's hundreds of them, but our largest group of homeless youth are seniors in high school. We see that there's a real jump in students at that senior year of high school that end up homeless. Here in Larimer County, we have almost 2,200 pre-K to 12th grade students experiencing homelessness. And of those, 279 are unaccompanied homeless youth, meaning that they are not homeless with their families, they are homeless on their own. And so that's an even bigger burden than it is when we're sharing that kind of challenge with an adult who can help us navigate it. In Larimer County right now, we have 99 kids who sleep in shelters and another 218 who are unsheltered at night, meaning they have nowhere to go. On top of that, there's 1,724 who are doubled up, living with hopefully a friend or family member who will allow them to sleep maybe on their couch or on their floor. And then 156 that are living in hotels and motels. And all of this matters because it matters for academics. As you can imagine, if you're not sure where you're sleeping or your sleeping situations aren't safe, it makes it pretty hard to show up and do really well in CMAS or in anything else that we're trying to learn. And yet our students are really trying to be successful as they come to school, and school offers them a lot of stability that they might not have in other situations. And so it was a really great chance for us to spend an entire day really focused in on what are we doing, what are the services that are provided, what are the nonprofits that are engaged and who can help support the school districts where there's a lot of stress put on the system because we are educating every student. And yet there's a lot of programs that can help kind of alleviate some of the pressure that's put on the school system so that these kids can focus on the academics and be successful. I think probably the most important statistic that I learned that actually literally made my jaw drop, though, was something that a lot of us have control over, and I know that I did this to my kids, so I feel like it's something that we should normalize talking about. And that is that students who change high schools even once, and even for positive reasons, are less than half as likely to graduate than compared with their peers who don't move. So that's one of those things that many of us do by choice, right? I just wanted to move across town, and I'm grateful that I was able to drive my kids to stay in the schools that they were in, but had we chosen to move them to a different high school, even for a positive move like a new house, that would have dropped their potential to graduate significantly because of the amount of transition that's included in that. And if you think about how much that impacted a family like ours, and we're secure in every other way, I think it's important for us all to know that and recognize it. So thanks for letting me share that all with you.
And we'll wrap it up with Pam. Thank you, Dawn.
Well, clearly there's lots of exceptional work going on throughout the district. I wanted to highlight 2 schools I was able to visit. The first one was Namaqua Elementary School, which, as most of you know, just won the governor's Distinguished Improvement Award for exceptional academic student growth, which is just a huge, huge honor. So shout out to Namaqua. I was invited to attend their 5th grade solar system play, and it was amazing. I got to hang out with all the parents and the grandparents and the siblings and the families that came to watch, and these kids used every bit of scientific knowledge they've learned at Namaqua, and they combined it with a lot of artistic, they did music, they had costumes, they had little, I mean, it was a play, so it was absolutely just adorable on one level and very scientific on another. So that was a really great thing to be able to attend at Namakwa. The second school I wanted to highlight was Truscott Elementary School. I was able to attend the parent and staff conversation, Cafe Con Leche, and that went on for, gosh, a couple hours, so that was amazing and in-depth to get to talk to parents and staff at Truscott Elementary. That's one of our dual immersion schools, which really sets Thompson School District apart. And then after the Cafe Con Leche, I visited one of the classrooms, and that's where I got to see social emotional learning in place. It was incredible. These kids they have so many needs, and just one example of things they could do in the classroom were the cozy corners. There were several, spaced around the room where they could go and think or read if they wanted to, or think about their emotions, try to calm down, sit with a friend. There's so many opportunities. It's proactive, it's positive. I was just highly impressed with both Namakwa and Truscott. So those are two celebrations I had. Thanks.
Thank you, Pam. A lot going on. The next piece is our public comment, which is 5.5 on the agenda. And so I'm going to ask Stu to read the information about public comment for us.
Okay.
Protocol.
Because the board wants to hear the viewpoints of the public and also needs to conduct its business in an orderly and efficient manner, it will schedule time during its regular board meetings for brief comments and questions from the public. The board will set a time for public participation prior to the business portion of the meeting. The time for each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes, and each individual will only be recognized once. If there's a large number of speakers, the board may elect to take comments for 1 hour before the business meeting and conclude public comment after the business meeting. Public comments and questions at a regular meeting may deal with any topic related to the board's conduct of the schools. Speakers may offer such criticism of school operations and programs as concern them, but are encouraged to exercise their speech rights responsibly. Personnel matters will be discussed in executive session.
Thank you, Stu. And Don will be facilitating this for timer, since we don't have our push button tonight.
Yeah, so I am doing it old school with technology. So at 2 minutes and 30 seconds, I'll raise my hand just so that you know that you have 30 seconds left, and then you're going to hear the audible timer go off when your 3 minutes is up. First up, we have Tracy Wilkin.
Thompson School District has failed to empower and inspire my children. I stood before you last month asking, who can I go to if I can't get help from the district for my kids in special education? I didn't get an answer then, and I'm still asking now. There are 14 disability categories for educational identification for special education. My child meets 3, and yet we find the district wanting to do the least possible for her. Why? I quote from the TSD website, students determined by an IEP team to be eligible for special education based on identification of one or more of these disability categories is entitled to free appropriate public education, FAPE, in the least restrictive environment. Why do I have to fight for something so hard for something she needs? Why isn't she receiving FAPE? Are kids being taken off IEPs because they don't have service providers? I am questioning where the funds are going. Is it allocated properly? You as a school board voted a ridiculous amount on the URA, but what about the students? What about special education? What about my children's needs? It's time to empower and inspire. It's time to do more. Thank you.
Ryan Wilkin.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ryan Wilkin. You just met my wife. We have 2 children at Walt Clark Middle School. In the most recent meetings with the district for both our children, the district seems to be doing as little as possible to accommodate both of our kids' educational weaknesses. In some cases, the district's not even attempting to work on the IEP goals. And in all the meanwhile, they continue to commit violations of my children's rights as well as laws and standards for special education. In the past, we trusted the process and went with the district's lead. This is why we were caught off guard when suddenly the district began the process to drop my daughter's IEP. This is the daughter that Tracy told you has 3 different disabilities. They pulled together some quick data from the school psychologist. This data consisted of reading and retaining information from 2 very short, easy passages. And all of a sudden, according to the district's director of special educational services, based on this single reflection and him, our child's 3 different learning disabilities are no longer affecting her ability to learn. Very confusing, to say the least. Our daughter's 3 disabilities were diagnosed by a neurologist and a neuropsychologist. At the public's expense, a district-approved neuropsychologist conducted a thorough evaluation of my daughter and provided a roadmap for the district to provide her with the skills and support she would need. Apparently, that is not enough for TSD's Director of Special Educational Services. Is this another case of discrimination? Special education is a real education. It should be taken seriously by serious people that will invest in our children. How much of the district's budget was directed to special education, and in exactly what ways? It is obviously not enough across the board. Walt Clark has 2 special education teachers and 0 full-time paraeducators. It is my observation that some of the Walt Clark staff is afraid to stand up for our children when they know what is right. I am really glad that my career doesn't cause me to fold on my morals and my ethics. I'm glad I'm not put in that position, and that's what I'm observing at Walt Clark, because that's a great principal, they have great staff, and they're not allowed to do what I know they want to do. Our story and struggle does not stop here, and my children have goals and dreams for their future. I, for one, am going to do whatever I can to provide those tools at home, and I'm asking TSD to do the same in their special education program for them, so they can become productive members in our community. Thank you for your time.
Madeline Wilkin.
Hi, I'm Maddie, an 8th grader at Walt Clark Middle School. I am being told that I no longer need an IEP. My parents have been fighting my battle and trying to do everything they can. But I think it's time for me to start trying to. This year I have been through a lot, but I've also overcome a lot. And now that I have, you want to put me and my family through this. I just want you to understand that I do struggle and that I need help. I know my family will not stop trying. To give you a perspective from my point of view, here's some things I struggle with on a daily basis. My anxiety, dyslexia, and health conditions all make it very hard for me to learn without any proper help. My my struggles are not like everyone else's. They are different, and I hope you can see that. What I don't get is that you want us to succeed, but you're not giving me and other people the right tools to. I would just like to have the opportunity to succeed as everyone else. Thank you. I hope you can help me.
Ayuna?
My name is Anna Wilkin, and I'm Maddie Wilkin's sister. I would like to reiterate that my sister isn't getting the help she deserves from the Thompson School District. As her sister, it hurts knowing she struggles daily with a multitude of limitations. She deserves better and should have the equal opportunity to succeed with the rest of her peers. It isn't complicated, and it's quite simple. Since when has providing the fundamental help to a child's success ever been difficult? Thank you for your time.
Mark Wyman?
Good evening. It's hard to follow that. That was inspiring. 2,400 years ago, the Greek playwright Aristophanes said, "By words, the mind is winged." When I heard that some 15 or 16 books across 3 libraries had been submitted in some sort of list, I was sad. I'm just a normal guy married to a school teacher, 3rd grade, but I'm also a dad, a husband, a lover of books and words. I see up close and personal the concern and love by our teachers for these kids, the heartache and anxiety they feel working to get our kids to read. And now to have to fight that, the literal blood, sweat, and tears shed for our kids to inspire them to read. I was sad and horrified to see any limits on expression, words, ideas, or books. Imagine a 3rd grader reading about lions and tigers in Africa, a middle schooler reading about how to build a computer, a high schooler about the intersection of race and gender, and how they fit in this world. Ideas and words that stretch their imaginations because of books. I urge this person who is challenging these books to consider first and foremost good faith in your argument. Are these heartfelt objections truly yours to passages and sections, and are they so objectionable as to want to ban them? A healthy democracy with rich freedoms and liberty needs its citizens and its leaders to operate in good faith. Are you? To submit a list of books and cut and paste objections to them? How much thought and careful discernment did you spend on this? Any step or effort to ban or limit books is a step away from democracy, away from a free press, free speech. A free society should endeavor for more freedom, more liberty, not less. More books, more thought. In 1851, Harriet Beecher Stowe wrote Uncle Tom's Cabin, which brought to light and to wider public awareness to the northern part of our country, specifically the horrors and brutal effects of slavery on families. Her words lifted up and moved people. What if she hadn't written those words? What if people didn't read them? Words matter, books matter to a democracy. Let us take some advice from our friends whom are fierce advocates of the Second Amendment, who fight any efforts to limit their rights. We don't want our rights limited as well. Grant us the same consideration. Let us have our books, more books, not less. C.S. Lewis talked of the power of storytelling when he called it stealing past watchful dragons and being able to explain a world to our young that is less susceptible to bias and preconceived notions through stories. Let us have our stories.
Leanne Porzici? Vicki, thank you.
I'm going to share an excerpt with my Thompson School Board members from a book called Forged by Reading by Kylene Beers and Bob Prost, who are renowned experts in reading education for the last 35 years, where they want us to consider what seriously happens when we begin removing books from shelves. What do we remove next? Who or what do we become? Sailing into tomorrow may require us to rethink assumptions and values so that we act differently in the future. There will be implications and consequences for considering the new and reconsidering what we have long thought. The only way to avoid the discomfort is to avoid the issues. If we can avoid talking about and reading about problematic matters, issues that might require us to rethink values and assumptions, then we won't feel the discomfort that such difficult thought might entail. If we banish from our minds, our libraries, and our classrooms any examination of politics, religion, race, environment, sex, justice, and the like, we might protect ourselves from the possible discomfort we might experience. All we have to do is trivialize the curriculum to the point that few will be bothered by anything. If we can make instruction completely insignificant, utterly irrelevant to anyone's emotional and intellectual life, then absolutely no one should rise up to protest that the threat we pose to treasured beliefs, valued affiliations, or well-established habits of thought and action. We can teach kids how viruses are different from bacteria, but avoid discussing why the healthcare system better serves the wealthy than the poor. We can teach what events led up to World War II and which countries fought on which sides and the horrors of the Nazi concentration camps, but fail to mention our own concentration camps for American citizens of Japanese ancestry. We can give the facts of Brown versus the Board of Education, but never read what happened to the Little Rock Nine, never discuss how the integration of schools caused thousands of well-qualified black teachers to lose their jobs because white parents refused to let their children be taught by a black teacher. We can teach the definitions of preposition and conjunction. That will raise few hackles. Onomatopoeia and Zuma are unlikely to drive marchers into the streets, even if we require students to learn both definition and spelling. Better yet, we can teach penmanship. That will threaten the values of neither the conservatives nor the progressives, neither Republicans nor Democrats, neither those drilling for oil nor the sailors on one of the Greenpeace ships. Total irrelevancy, absolute insignificance, and unwavering stasis are effective strategies for avoiding the discomfort of thought and change. We cannot, Thompson School Board, ever give in to the demands of irrelevancy. So you must be brave. You must steer the ship into tomorrow. Your teachers will be there with you. And your students, they may shudder at past injustices of yesterday and yesteryear, and I hope they do. If they don't, we are in far more trouble than I thought. I wish you all bravery, stamina, and the knowledge that your hard work is the good work, the best work, the needed work. Thank you.
Ashton Velarde. Velarde, thank you.
Hi, my name is Ashton Velarde. I'm a sophomore at Loveland High School, and I'm here to voice what seems to be an ongoing problem in the Thompson School District schools. The event that happened Wednesday, March 29th, 2023, was frightening to all students that were present. We were all led in a blind panic, which, if someone was going to act on that threat that day, many innocent teenagers, including myself, would be deceased. All because of the blind and panicked decisions made by my school. Not to mention the teachers that left class that morning before class could begin, leaving their kids to defend for themselves. The result of that event has left parents and kids and fellow students alike to lose trust in the schools and the district itself. We need safer schools and environments for all our kids. Thank you.
Sarah Martinez.
Hello, everyone. This is in regards to several comments that were made last board meeting. I'm an educator here in Thompson School District. My whole life, I was born and raised in a Christian home. For all intents and purposes, I was and am a theologically conservative Christian. For myself, I hold to the historic Christian sexual ethic, and I know and understand I was born female. And also, The words gay and trans happen to describe my experience in life. So let me be clear about this. I'm Christian, I'm gay, I'm trans. I've never stated any of this in my classroom. I'm not pushing an agenda, an ideology, or my personal beliefs, Christian or otherwise, onto my students. I teach math. With all the gaps students have from their schooling before and during COVID, my focus is on getting students that are 2 or more grade levels behind the knowledge that they need in order to succeed in high school. My focus is on keeping all students safe in my classroom so they can learn. My focus is encouraging students to find their passions so that they can push through to the career and life that they want for themselves and that you as parents want for them. Beyond math, I encourage students to respect each other, to be kind to each other, and to stand up for each other and themselves. None of what I have said here that I do oversteps my bounds as an educator. In fact, these things are a part of the long list of expectations and quality standards I'm expected to aspire to as an educator in this district and in the state. So I'll leave you with this. I welcome any parent, local community member, or board member to have a conversation with me. I understand your concerns, and I might even share some of them. Take a moment to listen to the people that are closest to this, especially those who hold a different perspective than you. A word spoken at the right time is like a golden apple on a silver platter. A wise correction to a receptive ear is like an ornament of gold. Proverbs 25:11-12. He who answers before listening, that is his folly and his shame. Proverbs 18:13.
Hayden Sweet.
Madam President, Dr. Schaefer, members of the Board of Education, I am Hayden Sweet. I'm an English language teacher here in the district. This is the high season for hiring in school districts across the country, and Thompson, along with other school districts around the state and the country, is competing for a diminishing pool of qualified applicants and is also working with a simultaneous dynamic of current educators looking to leave the profession. The Colorado Education Association's most recent survey found that nearly 2/3 of current educators are at least considering leaving teaching entirely. So what makes a teacher decide to stay or leave, and what can we do to increase the odds that someone wants to stay? First, we can continue to work to make schools safe for those who work in and attend our schools. 67% of educators in the latest CEA survey reported not feeling safe at school. This applies not just to the threat of shootings, this also encompasses staff safety when it comes to student behaviors as well. Paying attention to this issue is critical. A study by the U.S. Department of Education in the second half of the last decade reviewed data from teachers who either stayed in, moved from, or left their school districts in South Dakota, Missouri, and Colorado over a period of time. Aside from some of the obvious correlations, teachers over 50 were more likely to leave than those under 50, for example. Some interesting trends did emerge that could help us recruit great teachers and retain the ones we have. First, special education teachers were far more likely to be movers rather than stayers. This tells us that working conditions for special ed are critical to recruiting and retaining our staff in that department. Second, teachers who work in schools on the accountability clock were 23 to 36% more likely to leave than those in schools who were not on the clock. This is a complex issue with many moving parts and pieces, but in general, the workload placed on educators by the district and the state relating to being on the accountability clock is often a factor in an educator's decision to stay or leave. Third, and most definitively, average salary of a district was a deciding factor in the probability of an educator to leave the profession. Teachers in districts with the lowest average salaries were 35% more likely to be leavers than teachers in districts with the highest average salaries. I hope the district will take into consideration these issues as we enter this important hiring season. Thank you.
Tawny Eckley.
Madam President, Dr. Schaefer, members of the Board of Education, my name is Tani Eckley and I'm a third grade teacher at Edmondson Elementary School. I would like to take a moment before I begin to recognize all of the educators and education support professionals in the room. Would you please stand? Every 2 years, the Colorado Department of Education commissions a study on the cost of living for Colorado school districts. The study determines the income needed for a family of 3 to be able to afford to live in a given school district and is used in the school finance funding formula. In 2021, that number for the Thompson School District was $57,983. With an 8% inflation rate for 2022 and a roughly 5.5% average so far in 2023, we might expect the next number to be northwards of 65,000. For context, we should note that this number has grown exponentially over the last decade. In 2009, the number was $45,975. In 2015, the number was $50,282. This growth from under $46,000 to over $65,000 in just over a decade comes as a surprise to no one in this area. What it does mean is that it is becoming increasingly difficult to afford to live and work here. In Thompson, roughly 368, or more than a third, of our licensed educators make less than the $57,983 standard for a family of 3. If you look ahead and assume the next number would be 65,000, more than 60% of our licensed staff will make less than what the standard of living for a family of 3 is for this area unless we adjust salaries significantly. Think about what a barrier that is to recruit new people to the profession. Think about what a decision point that is for deciding whether to stay or go. Surrounding districts have a starting salary that is more than 10% higher than ours. This board has done some terrific work on this over the years. Our starting salary is more than 20% higher than it was just 5 years ago, but we have more to do in order to make our salaries regionally competitive. Thank you.
Madam President, Dr. Schaefer, members of the Board of Education, I'm Andy Chrisman. I'm a parent, a teacher in the district. Every 2 years, the right place.
That's a lot of pages, Andy.
Yes.
Yeah, you got 3 minutes, buddy.
The last 2 speakers have spoken to the statistics and conditions surrounding why someone might choose to leave the teaching profession in general and why someone might choose to leave into some of the economic conditions in this district in particular. I'd like to put a human face or 3 on some of this. When my own twins were born 15 years ago, my parents and my wife's parents took turns traveling to Colorado from across the country for a year and a half to look after them. When that became unfeasible, we made the difficult decision to have my wife stay home because one of my sons couldn't succeed in traditional daycare. Even without daycare costs, we picked up 3 night and weekend jobs to help make ends meet. Even with those extra jobs, my parents had to help support us financially for about 4 years. All this despite how amazing this district was to support me with Donate a Day, with understanding, flexibility, work hours. This district was really tremendous to me. Another of our teachers has been with the district for 17 years. They are married with 3 children. Even after 17 years, the family qualifies for food stamp benefits. The teacher's spouse doesn't work outside the home in part because the cost of daycare would eat up their entire second salary. A third teacher has worked with the district for 9 years. They are a single parent of a single child. Their income qualifies the child for CHP benefits, so the teacher doesn't need to pay for health benefits for their child, which is nice. The teacher works a second job at the weekends. Their lease was not renewed on their apartment for next year. So far, they have been denied a lease at no fewer than 4 apartment complexes because their monthly income doesn't exceed 3 times the rent on a 2-bedroom apartment. Right now, it's about $1,500 a month for most places. This teacher is considering moving districts so that they can qualify for a lease. Despite the incredible support they report Thompson has given them in their professional growth. Again, I want to tell you how awesome all these people have said Thompson has been for them professionally. When I talk about Thompson to the rest of the world, I talk about how personally and professionally supportive the district is. I talk about how responsive it is to the professional needs of its staff, and the miracles it works with students despite limited resources. I talk about how relatively empowered our staff is to shape its own activities in the classroom. But I also carry these stories, and more like it, around with me. And so when I do talk salary, I talk about these real-life people with real-life struggles that are directly related to compensation that no other working conditions, however excellent, can solve for. I know the school district and the board shared these concerns, and I thank you for your time tonight.
Lisa Randolph.
Hi, I'm Lisa Randolph. I have been a parent to children in this district for 22 years. I've been here a long time. You've never seen me, so it's obviously pretty important that I'm here today. I attended the parent meeting at Loveland High, and ultimately I got out of that meeting a lot of runaround. I continued to hear, it wasn't a credible threat. It wasn't a credible threat. Why are we dwelling on if it was a credible threat or not? How many school shootings or mass casualty events came with a credible threat? The issue that needs to be addressed is the chaos, the lack of or the understanding of protocols, and the inability or refusal by staff to follow safety guidelines. On the thompsonschool.org website under Emergency Response Protocol, it states, staff members follow safety and security protocols, model safety and security behaviors, reinforce behaviors, expectations, and provide behavior interventions. The staff at LHS did the opposite. They incited panic and chaos by teachers leaving and telling children to flee. I was there that day. I've never witnessed this in a school in this district. Ironically, I saw a teacher getting into her car. That same teacher at the beginning of the school year refused to cooperate in a lockdown drill. My daughter was in the class. The principal walked in, and his exact words were, "Fix this." The kids were all at their desks. Everybody else was doing the drills. I'm not blaming the teachers. I adore the majority of the teachers in this district, but they are part of a bigger problem. Let's be honest, the school district is like big business. The district is the CEO, the principals are the managers, the teachers are the employees. Each level has a responsibility, and each should be held accountable for their actions. Communication needs to be addressed by the district to the parents, by the district to the schools. Staff needs to be retrained, and drills need to be done more often with 100% participation required by all staff members. Our children's lives could depend on the actions or the inactions of the Thompson School District. Our children deserve better.
Lindy Jones.
Good evening, Madam President, Dr. Schaefer, members of the board. My name is Lindy Jones. My husband and I both have been teachers in this district over 20 years each. Our twin sons went through the district from kindergarten through high school, and next month they're graduating CSU as engineers. And so we truly are invested in this school district as teachers, as community members, and as parents. And we still live in the community. And when I listen to board meetings, come to things, I hear outside people come in and tell us we need to ban books. I hear outside people telling schools that we're telling children to keep secrets about who they believe themselves to be. And I want you to know that at High Plains School, we've been in the paper 4 times celebrating the empowerment of our students and the learning that they've done as a teacher there. We have connections with our community. Our board reports and Superintendent Dr. Schaefer's report earlier on in the board meeting gave us hope and positivity about the school district. And all we had to do is take a step back, take a deep breath, and look in and see all the good that's happening. And that's because of teachers, support staff members, educators, custodians, everyone that works here. We have a lot to be proud of. Yes, we have improvements. We always know that, but that's what hard workers do. So thank you for listening to everyone. Thank you for being here and supporting. And remember that we have a room full of people who truly believe in Thompson School District. Thank you.
Amanda Laufeth? Lanfith? I feel bad, like I am the one who is so far off that spell check isn't working for me. You're our last speaker for the evening. I hate to move on if I'm just mispronouncing your name. Yeah, let's try one more time.
I was a first grade teacher, I might
There
be
we
able
go,
to
yeah. It is me, by the way.
Well, Landfottle or something like that? Landfot?
If you have signed up and you haven't yet spoke,
it'll be your turn.
It is your turn.
Okay.
All right, going once, going twice. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Don. Oh, we have one call in.
Hello, this is Elizabeth Newton, Fort Collins, Colorado, and my subject today is family engagement in schools. And I want to start by talking about woke culture, because that word has been used in a previous school board meeting. And what it is that woke culture promotes tolerance and better overall for our fight for social justice and greater inclusivity, because participating in discourse promotes kind of cultural awakening. Cultural awakening is the awareness of your culture's social situation and others different from you. And the reason I say this is because when we're speaking about family engagement, we need to be engaging with all families, not just loud families. So some strategies for supporting family engagement can be grounding the district's strategic planning and evidence-based family engagement framework, inviting families to share priorities, concerns, and feedback, bring families into decision-making process, and assess all family engagement initiatives through a security lens, which means having a framework to guide decision-making as policies, procedures, programs, and decisions are being considered for implementation to determine if diversity, equity, and inclusion are being promoted. There's 6 different types of parent involvement: parenting that we all do at home, community, volunteering, learning at home, decision-making, and collaborating with community. While many may not know that there's an important difference between parental involvement and parental engagement, an involved parent takes part in the activities already determined by the school. An I think that using this type of framework could be successful in the school setting. I'm available to discuss this with anyone who's interested. My number is 970-317-7199. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your hard work. Good night.
Okay. That should include all of our public comment, right? Okay. Moving on to our action consent items. These are items that we had presented to us at previous meeting or involve items that need approval financially, usually bond changes or something. Board members, if you have an item you want pulled for further discussion, please let me know now. Can't see them, so I assume if I haven't heard anything. I will read off each item and we will vote on them as a group. Amy is going to read the proclamation as soon as, let me read the list and then I'll have you do it. There's a long list, so be patient. 6.1, approval of personnel extra duty coaching recommendations. 6.2, approval of expenditures over $50,000. 6.3, approval of English language arts curriculum. 6.4, approval of Head Start self-assessment report. 6.5, approval of Head Start cost of living adjustment, which would be COLA, and quality improvement funding for 2022-2023. 6.6, approval of Head Start carryover funding for 2021 and 2022 grant year. Approval of the Week of the Young Child proclamation, which was April 1 through 7, 2023. 6.8, approval of second reading policy JQ-E 2023-2024 student fees. 6.9, approval of the YMCA intergovernmental agreement, the IGA. 6.10, approval of the 2023-2024 organizational chart. So it's a long list. We're going to vote on all of these together after Amy reads the proclamation for us for the Week of the Young Child.
Okay. Whereas the Thompson School District Integrated Early Childhood Program and the Early Childhood Council of Larimer County, in conjunction with the National Association for the Education of Young Children, are celebrating the Week of the Young Child, April 1st through 7th, 2023, and whereas these organizations are working to improve early learning opportunities, including early literacy programs that can provide a foundation of learning for children in Larimer County, Colorado, and whereas early years are learning years, and whereas by calling attention to the need for quality early childhood care and education for all young children and families within the community, we can hope to improve the quality and availability of such services. And whereas teachers and others who make a difference in the lives of young children deserve thanks and recognition. And whereas public policies that support early learning for all young children are crucial to our young children's future, now, therefore, we, the Thompson School District Board of Education, do hereby proclaim April 1 through 7, 2023 as the Week of the Young Child.
Thank you, Amy. So I will take a motion to approve this bundle of topics 6.1 through 6.10.
So moved.
Second. I have a motion from Dawn, and the second, was that you, Alexandra?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Laura Lee, please call the roll.
Stu Boyd.
Aye.
Amy Doran.
Aye.
Sorry. Pam Howard.
Aye.
Dolly Kirk.
Aye.
Barbara Cruz.
Aye.
Alexandra Leslie.
Aye.
Nancy Rumfeld.
Aye.
Thank you, Laura Lee. Motion passes. We don't have any discussion action items tonight, so we'll move on to 8 discussion items. And our first item I've been looking forward to, once I knew it was on our agenda, it is 8.1, Animal Assisted Intervention Update. So I'm looking forward to this.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, and Dr. Schaefer. Melissa Schneider, Chief Academic Officer. Tonight we present to you an update on our Animal Assisted Intervention Program in the Thompson School District. This is a fun presentation. It will show you how TSD uses canines to benefit our staff and students, and just a little bit of history around the program, and I think we even have one of our canines with us tonight. I would like to introduce Ms. Charlie Carter, our Executive Director of Student Support Services.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Schaefer. We too are very excited to be here to provide an introduction to and raise awareness of our Animal Assisted Interventions project here in the district. In the near future, we will be bringing to you a board policy and regulation around animal assisted interventions. Tonight, we have some staff here who are a part of our project, and as well, we have a very special guest named Beezus, who is back there somewhere. So one of our own experts in animal assisted interventions, BFK School Counselor Jennifer Von Lintel, will be presenting. Jennifer?
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Schaefer. I am very excited to share with you the work that therapy dogs are doing in our district. And animal-assisted interventions are not the I'm bringing my pet dog to school and they're hanging out in the classroom with me type of intervention. These therapy dogs go through intensive training. They're tested to make sure that they have the skill sets to be working in schools. And they're brought in for a purpose. This can be anything from a school goal of creating a climate culture change. It can be down to working with an individual student on reading goals. We also see a lot of research in this work. Interestingly, within 7 minutes, you can be reducing cortisol. So you have students that are feeling less stressed about the work that they're doing at school. We're also increasing oxytocin. That's our sense of belonging. We're feeling connected in our community. And we're also seeing natural increases in dopamine. So students are encouraged and motivated to try new things. Now, this work has been going on for 30 years in our district, and many thanks to Sue Timer. She collaborated with HABIC, the Human Animal Bond in Colorado, out of Colorado State University. And in 2009, HABIC was doing some research in our district, and that's when I learned about this work and saw it in my own counseling room and said, I need to learn whatever I can about this because this is making positive changes for students where I was really having difficulty making positive changes for them previously. So I was very fortunate to find a dog who loves kids. He's affectionately known at BF Kitchen as Copper Whopper Belly Flopper. And he worked with me for 10 years at that school. We had over 12,000 interactions with students, staff members, community members, our families, with 0 reportable incidents. In 2013, our district psychological response team started working with HOPE, Animal Assisted Crisis Response. These are kind of like the Navy SEALs of therapy dogs. So they were doing great work in their therapy work, but now they went through intensive training with their handler to be in crisis situations to help people. In 2018, we broadened our scope of community members. So we were originally working with HABIC, continued that work, and introduced Pet Partners, which is a national organization with many teams, volunteer teams in this area. And in 2021, we collaborated with Canine Community Heroes for a professional therapy dog training program that is becoming nationally recognized. One, because it specifies we really work with educators who are working with their own dogs in a school setting. The training itself is taking place in schools, currently at BF Kitchen, And finally, in that last model or session of that training, we're working with students. So our teams, our educators working with their dogs can practice those interventions before going into their schools. The picture that you see in your slide deck is Sarah Walgast, the principal at Big T, with her dog Eddie in that level 4 training. Now what's happening this year? Animal-assisted interventions in our district. We've got 15 schools that are welcoming therapy dogs and having positive impacts with students. 7 educators are working, like Jason and Beezus here, who is really our model. We brought Beezus in. We wanted you to see the behaviors of a therapy dog in a big setting like this. I'm hoping most of our audience didn't know that there was a therapy dog in the building because of the excellent expectations that we have for our dogs. We've got 19 volunteers across 6 different community organizations. So we've got our HABIC teams, we've got our Hope Animal Assisted Crisis Response, Pet Partners, Alliance of Therapy Dogs, Caring Canines, and Love on a Leash. All of this community involvement for our animal assisted interventions. We've got our policy and regulation, and many thanks to Shannon Jenkins, we are starting some collaboration to look at some research so we can add to the body of evidence for this work. Now I wanted to just share a couple very short stories about how this has impacted students in our district. Mindy Mills is an occupational therapist, and a number of years ago she came to me and she said, "Boy, Jen, I have got a student that's really struggling with some gross motor skills, and they are digging their heels in and do not want to come to this intervention time." So I said, well, let's try layering an animal-assisted intervention on top of that. And in that work, she was able to take her practice. We had the dog in there, that interaction started reducing that cortisol. They were feeling less stressed about it. They were feeling more connected to Ms. Mills and the work. And they were feeling motivated to try these skills and having a blast. And the dog was having a blast with this. They started clamoring for more OT time, and there was no further difficulty getting the student to go to OT. With reading comprehension, we have this beautiful little Chihuahua mix named Bug. And this little dog comes in with her handler, works with a 2nd grader who has some reading comprehension goals. Well, this handler can ask questions to the 2nd grader like, Bug has no clue what's going on in this story from the last 2 pages. Can you please tell her? And that student can then use those skills and look back in the text that was selected by their teacher and has that motivation to share that with Bug. Increasing enrollment in after-school programs. I had a yarn club that I ran a number of years ago, just really to be working on social skills and some regulation with yarn arts like crocheting and finger weaving. And all of a sudden Copper's schedule changed and he could come to yarn club. And my participation in yarn club increased 300%. Copper loved taking yarn from one table to another table. The whole community came together around this. We were getting yarn donations from all over the place. And having students turn in permission forms the same day that they were issued. And last, I want to share a story from Jennifer Sardinia and her dog, Ike. This involved a student who was significantly impacted in another student's death. And this student had shut down entirely, wouldn't talk to their favorite teacher, their favorite staff member, their peers. And she walked Ike over to this student. The student reached his hand out and started petting Ike. And she started sharing a story about Ike and information about Ike. And that student started asking questions to her. It's called bridging work. A student who's in that crisis situation can then attach to that dog. That work then comes to the handler professional. And then in those hope crisis moments, we can pass that on to mental health personnel, and they can really have a good discussion about what went on in that crisis. So on my, one of my slides here, I said TSD is a destination district for AAI. There's been articles in Education Week, District Administration, USA Today, ASCD, the Association of School Curriculum and Development. They reached out to TSD to find out what they were going to write about therapy dogs being in schools. We've got a mini conference next week, a national mini conference for educators. TSD is going to be mentioned. Books like Animal Assisted Crisis Response, Specialized Canine Intervention for Individuals Affected by Crisis or Disasters. Chapter in there about TSD's collaboration with HOPE Animal Assisted Crisis Response. And Pathways for Implementing a School Therapy Dog Program, peer-reviewed article that's being used nationally in many, many schools. That's based off the model here in Thompson. Upcoming, Rutledge Press has Dogs in Schools, Pedagogy for Happy, Healthy, and Humane Interventions. That's being released in September. Some of you may not have heard of Swansea University because it's in Wales, so we're getting international recognition. And lastly, the Handbook on Animal-Assisted Therapy, Foundations and Guidelines for Animal-Assisted Interventions. This is the textbook used in universities globally for work in the human-animal bond and animal-assisted therapy work. The next edition, the 6th edition, is going to mention Thompson School District. And with that, I would love to take any questions from the board.
Questions? I'm just anxious to meet Buck. Anybody have questions? I can't see. If you do, you have to. Amy.
Thank you so much. My question is, a lot of the examples are with elementary school or elementary age. Do you have any examples with high school or middle school, older?
I think primarily in our crisis work, we have a lot of examples of that. But we've got Jason here with Beezus, and would you like to provide any examples of the work that you're doing with our older students?
So I think probably the most notable, one of the programs I oversee is Community Connections. Because it is a dog handler partnership, Beezus has to go where I go. So she gets to visit lots of schools around the district. In our Community Connections program, this will be a little hard to talk about just because I'm not prepared, and it's emotional. We work with students with some real significant disabilities, and we've had 2 students with autism, one nonverbal, very significantly impacted by autism with serious phobias of dogs, like jumping into the street when there's a dog on the fence to avoid the dog behind the fence. And no students are forced to interact with the dogs. Beezus is there at Community Connections. Both of those students initiated contact with the dog. They wanted to be part of it. They weren't quite able, like some of them it was hand over hand, reverse of what probably they'd experienced where they're taking my hand and petting Beezus. But they start working through some of those phobias that they have. Also a lot of, on the other side of the spectrum, where you think all dogs are friendly, right? And so teaching really some of those life skills around how to deal with animals that you that you approach or you come into contact with out in the community has been really significant. And then, obviously, just, small work when students have lost a pet, and, a principal will reach out and ask if we could go by, and they just need to say hi, and then it's kind of some healing happens. They're able to re-engage in their day-to-day. So thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah. Any other questions? Nancy?
I had submitted a question. I was curious on the collaboration with the school counselor mental health initiative for a research study. When I clicked on that link and went through this, is this are we actually participating in this study? Or is that just a link that was put there for information?
So at this point, we are exploring our options for an external researcher, and that is one that we're considering.
And so we would partner and then do the research with them, and then?
Yes.
And obviously, parents would have to consent to their kids being in the research study, or?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, it wasn't clear, like, are we doing it, or?
We have not entered into any agreements with any researchers yet.
Yeah, okay, perfect, thank you.
Anybody else?
You know, last month, we got a preview of this, and there was a mention that, at least at BF Kitchen, there had been more than canines. And I'm fascinated by a cat, because I actually want to use a cat for my work. But I wanted to find out what other pets you'd had, too.
So thank you for that question. We did have a therapy cat that was working at our school. Because of concerns for allergies, those interventions were held outside. But I do have some students that, they're okay with dogs, but they love cats. And this was a phenomenal feline. And the handler was a veterinarian. So I learned a lot about feline behaviors and really changing our intervention models from our canine models to our feline models. But we saw a number of students make some fantastic growth with that particular group of interventions also.
Thank you.
Yeah. Was I just pleading?
How she's 6.
I'm sorry, she's 6.
So it's like from the Beverly Cleary books from Mama.
Okay. Does she live with you and Karen?
Yeah, yeah, she's our dog. She's a different dog at home.
Sort of like.
Just like kids.
Yeah, right.
Who else? We'll go in the middle.
Oh, okay, that works.
Would Maddie like to come see the dog? She went home. Oh, she did. I don't, all I see is a glare of light. So I can't.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
Oh my
But
God.
She did go home?
Hi, honey.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. Hi. So she a mix, or?
Yeah, she's a rescue.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's, a lot of our dogs are rescues.
Rescues.
She's like, I had enough.
She's cute.
What'd you do?
This is almost like she's doing. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Sweetie, aren't you? Yeah.
This has been a little bit of a tough environment with all the mic feedback.
Yeah, it is. That's gotta hurt the ears.
So Jason, when did you start taking Beezus in?
So Beezus actually started with Lisa, who was Canine Community Heroes, when she was a puppy.
Okay.
At Canine Community Heroes. And then once we started the partnership, we finished up her training.
Okay. Well, thank you very, very much for bringing her in. Cool.
Thank you so much.
That was fun. Oh, all right. 8.2 is the 2023-2024 budget update. And I think I heard there's Gordon. Hi. Happy to see you.
Madam President, Dr. Schaefer, members of the board, I'm still mostly Gordon Jones, Chief Financial Officer for the district. Thank you for the opportunity to give a brief budget update to the board and the community tonight. Starting with our alignment with Strive 2025, this is certainly right up the alley of Focus Area 4, Stewardship of Resources. Especially desired outcomes 4.1, increasing the alignment of those resources, and outcome 4.3, to provide transparency in the use of those resources. A brief legislative update that is fast and furious right now, changing by the day, if not by the hour. Just a few quick comments that I'll make. The state budget long bill, which is Senate Bill 23-214, was introduced on March 27th by the Joint Budget Committee after their extensive meetings with the various state departments on figure setting. It passed through the Senate and the House with amendments from both chambers. It went to now back to the Joint Budget Committee as part of the concurrence process to reconcile those differences, and then will be introduced back through both chambers for final approval. A companion bill to that long bill is the school finance bill that was just introduced yesterday. It's as I said, a companion bill. My slide is already outdated when I say not yet introduced, but it was introduced yesterday. It provides more details on K-12 funding and what that actually means for the School Finance Act formula, and really when we get down to PPR, per pupil revenue from a district perspective, that's what provides those details. I'll touch on that more in just a minute. Other potential legislation or changes that have been talked about, and I don't know that they will be introduced at this time, but there was some talk of adjusting the formulas within the school finance formula. That would be primarily at-risk and cost of living adjustments. It's unlikely at this point, I think, this late in the game that those would be introduced, but part of the school finance bill did call for further work of a committee to analyze that formula and see what changes might be able to be made there. Also part of that discussion was the averaging mechanism, some conversations about that, if the board will recall. In districts with declining enrollment, which Thompson is one, along with most other districts in the state, there's a 5-year averaging option that can be used for funded pupil count. There was talk of changing that from a 5-year to a 4-year average. I think it met some fairly significant headwinds, especially with some of the districts that have just entered into that averaging scenario where Thompson has been for the last 5 or 6 years. So I don't think anything will come of that in this session either. The budget stabilization factor has been referred to in the school finance bill. We'll talk about that in just a minute. That's still subject to change as it works its way through both chambers, obviously, but there are some options there or some ability for adjustments. And then there's also been legislation suggested or introduced about capping the assessed valuation growth. That's from a property owner standpoint that would limit the amount of increase each year in property taxes, even though the value of the property might exceed that. There's talk of putting a cap on what that assessed valuation growth could be. That may be somewhat detrimental to the district, especially with our 2018 MLO, which is a fixed mill. So as assessed valuation increases, more revenue is collected. Conversely, if there's a cap that's put on, it would still increase likely, it just wouldn't increase as much, the revenue collections are. Those are just a few of the items that are out there still floating about in the legislative session that has about another 20 days approximately remaining in that. Just a quick overview of, pardon me, a quick overview of the Thompson School District key budget components. Really 3 main areas. We have a revenue, which is boiled down to, in simplest of terms, 3 key areas. The School Finance Act, which is essentially funded pupil count times per pupil revenue. And then expenditures, under revenue still, School Finance Act is the first. Mill levy overrides is a second substantial amount of revenue collection for the district. And then other, which, excuse me, other revenue, which are investment earnings, the charter school chargebacks, miscellaneous items, not terribly material. The first 2 are certainly the two most material for the district. It's important to note that from a revenue perspective, when we're talking about School Finance Act, that's funded pupil count times per pupil revenue. That includes the charter component as well. So the charter students, the charter funded pupil count, that revenue is included in the district's revenue. And then we'll touch on in just a second, what happens with that revenue when it's passed through to the charter schools. There's also an expenditure that's associated with that. Moving on to expenditure items, we have full-time equivalents, which are our labor costs. Salaries and benefits primarily are the items that are in there. That makes up approximately 85% of the expenditures of the school district in FTE costs. And you can see some of the particular items there. We have 3 employee groups that impacts: licensed, classified, and administrative, professional, technical, or APT as it's referred. We have our benefits package, which is primarily our health, dental, life. I just provided the cost there, $9,418 annually per FTE that the district has. That is a district-provided benefit. So that's a substantial expenditure for the district. And then PARA, or the public retirement plan that's in place in the school system, is 21.4% of wages, eligible wages, and Medicare at 1.45%. Then we have essentially everything else, the non-FTE or non-full-time equivalent expenditures. Those come about from budgets that are submitted by each department. Business Services prepares templates, reviews those with the various department heads, sends them away to do their work, asking for those templates to come back in a couple weeks' time, and then we review again with them to understand any large variances that they may have from the prior year. We're in the process right now of accumulating all of those costs into one comprehensive list to really give the full non-FTE amount that we have. As I said there, it's operating expenditures not associated with salaries and benefits. Generally, everything else that's an expenditure for the district. And that also includes the charter school pass-throughs. So as I mentioned, the revenue is recorded up above. The expense, which is exactly the pass-through from a PPR, or per pupil revenue basis, is an expenditure that also appears in non-FTE expenditures. That's one of the larger expenditure items that we have in that category as well. We now move on to funded pupil count, which is a fundamental item for consideration in arriving at our School Finance Act funding. I've provided a 5-year history that you can see. The large blue bar being Thompson School District, and then the orange as Loveland Classical, and gray as New Vision charter schools. So you can see the change in enrollment over the years with that total funded pupil count shown, denoted in the numbers at the top. There's a variety of factors that has resulted in the district declining in enrollment. Again, most every district, I bet I could count on one hand, certainly on 2 of the 178 districts in the state that are not experiencing declining enrollment. There's a variety of reasons for that, but that is a consideration that all districts are, I don't want to say struggling with, but having to maneuver around in the current environment. The next chart, there's 3 tables that you'll see. These are instrumental in determining what the funding for the district will be for the coming year. These are what's included. A lot of this information and details is what's in the school finance bill that just got introduced yesterday. So first we'll talk about the total state budget stabilization factor. Again, you can see a 5-year history with the largest bar of over $1 billion statewide in the budget stabilization factor coming about during the unknown COVID timeframe, and then it's been reduced each year since. So the 23-24 estimate that's shown here of $201.3 million has since been reduced a bit further in the school finance bill to $171.2 million. So about another, $30 million in additional buy down of the budget stabilization factor, which is a good thing because that increases then the per pupil revenue that the district will realize. Talking about just Thompson's share of the budget stabilization factor, again, you can see the historical, 5-year historical representation of what that number has been. Estimated at $3.3 million all the way back a week ago, and currently at $2.8 million with the revised numbers that were just released yesterday. That's something that, again, is subject to change. It could be brought down further. It could remain at that. I would hesitate to think that it would go back the other way by being increased, but it's about, if you look at those 5 years and do the math, it's about 1.6% of the total is Thompson's share of that each year. The bottom bar then reflects the calculation that is associated with that budget stabilization factor and all other factors within the School Finance Act. And it arrives at the per pupil revenue, or PPR, after the BSF, or budget stabilization factor. So you can see again the 5-year history, fairly steadily increasing. The estimate at the time this slide was prepared was $9,967. The latest run that I just saw today, financial run, shows Thompson School District at an even $10,000. So an increase of about $33 above that amount. So that is the very brief and very short budget update. Know that a lot of work is taking place right now as we start combining all these numbers to say what's our revenue from school finance, what's our revenue from mill levy overrides, how much do we think might be available for compensation during negotiations for each different employee group, how much has been requested by departments for normal inflationary increases in their non-FTE costs, as well as more substantial increases. Some of those examples of things that are always competing for dollars: utilities. We all hear about utilities. That's one of our larger operating expenses in the district, and the cost of natural gas has escalated. The district is not immune to those increases. Transportation costs, safety and security items that are asked to be addressed. Special education funding, both in district and for those students that we are not able to adequately serve in district and have to be placed out of district, and the transportation of those students, and the ITS replacement cycle for devices. Just a few ideas or examples of what items will be discussed very thoroughly over the coming 2 to 4 weeks as we try to get that overall budget model ready to go for the board's consideration at a future meeting. And I don't want to say future or consideration. There will certainly be further updates before we get to a point of asking the board for adoption of the budget, which is preliminarily scheduled for the second board meeting in June at this point, which is about mid-June. I don't know the exact date. Questions that I could potentially address for the board?
Nancy?
We're so far away. First, I wanted to say thank you, Gordon, for answering all the questions that I had submitted to you on the consent agenda items. And then you answered the one that I had. So I received I don't know if anyone else does, from that Colorado School Finance, Tracy Raines. Yep. And so I saw on her, the legislative fiscal impact, that $10,000 number. And so that looks like unless it changes again, it's gonna land.
Right, and that $10,000 PPR, per pupil revenue number, to be exact, it's $10,000.32, I believe. But 10,000 is close enough for the status of the budget at this point. Still subject to change as the school finance bill passes through both chambers of the legislature. There could be adjustments made to that. Given the conversations that I've heard along the way, I wouldn't anticipate that being the case, but that's what the number is right now. I will say that Thompson School District is in the past, one of about 13 districts that were floor funded, meaning as the calculation in the School Finance Act that's part of the Constitution is run and the numbers are flowed through that. Thompson was one of about 13 districts that the calculation actually put us below the floor, and we had to be raised to the floor or base funding level. That's the same with the $10,000 figure, but I think it went from 13 to 9 districts now, if I recall from my review this morning.
And then the only other thing is it kind of relates back to those questions I asked about the consent agenda item for the 50,000, as far as just budget. When I asked, this is the first time I've ever asked you what line item are they associated with, and then when I saw the one that was associated with, it was like several. We always have to vote on purchases over 50,000. Is there any way in the budget process, some of that can be broken out so then later we have something that I can, like, oh yeah, I remember it was this, or maybe we raised the 50,000 so it's not so much. I don't know. It's just something to think about.
To associate those purchases with a specific line item that's been approved by the board in the budget?
Or break them out during our budget work,
I
so that we are aware. But it's just something to think about. It occurred to me when you answered that question.
I appreciate the feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon, very much for coming.
I would say my pleasure, but it is my pleasure.
I'll go sit down.
Thank you, board.
It's nice to see you. 8.3, negotiations update. No. Well, then these are out of order on my.
7.3 facility use rate review.
It's 8, okay, facility use fee update, thank you. I'm not looking at the same one. See, my first one has discussion action items listed automatically. My mistake. Hi.
Hi. Good evening, Madam President, Board of Education, Dr. Schaefer, Todd Piccone, Chief Operations Officer. Tonight, I'm going to have Kristen Batigi come up, Director of Operations, and talk about our facility use fees, similar to what we did last year.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Schaefer. I'm Kristen Batigi, Director of Operations. I was instructed to fix this, so.
She did.
There it is. So thank you for having me here tonight to talk about the facility use rate review. So last June, Leah Howard came and presented information regarding these rates. So here's just kind of a little update on that. The Strive 2025 connection, focus area 2.3 and 4.2, so inclusive and supportive culture, as well as stewardship of resources. Our buildings and grounds are both school district, where we conduct our school business, as well as community assets, and really can be that central point in our communities. So it's important to balance both the use of our facilities as well as our fiscal responsibility in running our buildings so much. It does cost. So that's where we'll be talking a little bit today. So last year, like I said, Leah Howard had presented the proposed facility use rate increases. And so this is not something that we'll be asking you to vote on. It's just a raising awareness around what we're doing. The review process included using a school facility cost calculator, as well as looking at market value, Estes Park, Poudre School District, Greeley. So what are other school districts, similar facilities charging? So the cost to operate certain spaces is high enough that we can't reasonably recover our costs. And so we're not looking to raise rates so significantly. Several of our rates were well below the market average as well. And so we're on a 3-year track to raise those rates to accommodate that. And then also labor rates. So as we continue to have salary increases, these rates also just need to be adjusted. So there's no new information here. As I said, it's kind of a 3-year track to get us back into where we're reasonably recovering costs, as well as staying within those market values. So our rate structure is kind of complicated, so I know these charts are pretty simplified. Just depending on the space, so if it's an elementary school, a middle school, or a high school, the rate is different based on that. If you think of an elementary gym versus a high school gym, that's a pretty different space, and so there's different costs associated with that. And then also, we have a lot of different groups that use our spaces. Of course, school district, PTA, our intergovernmental agreements, City of Loveland, Town of Berthoud, there's no cost associated with those. But then we also have nonprofit youth, nonprofit adult, as well as commercial groups. And so those rates correspond to those different types of groups. So the 22 to 23 change is reflected on there, and then the proposed change, so looking at our cafeteria and multipurpose spaces, our gymnasiums, our media centers. So the range of increases proposed for this year is anywhere from $2.50 to $5 an hour for cafeterias, $2.50 to $4.50 an hour for gymnasiums, and $1.50 to $4 an hour for media centers. And then just an extra note on that, in the we had not proposed an increase in rate for elementary schools. That's something that we'll consider next year. So just kind of a teaser, I guess, for next year. And then just the facility use rate changes for our personnel. So just keeping up with staff increases. We are very fortunate to have a lot of our custodial staff that work outside events. So this is actually one of those events that we have. One of our building custodians works day shift and then comes and works again for the school district, which is great to keep that in-house staff where we're supporting them. And that's all that I have. Any questions?
Questions? Stu?
Kristen, if you would look at the facility use rate increases slide, and my fellow board members as well, let me make sure that I understand this. The 22-23 change column means that this year, for using these different parts of the facilities, the increase was anywhere from $2.50 to $6 an hour. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yep.
Okay. So my question is really about the next column. So the proposed 2023-24 change, so the proposal is that there would be an increase of $2.50 to $5 an hour, for example, for a cafeteria over and above the new amount that is now in place in 22-23. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
All right. I thought I was interpreting
Yeah.
that correctly, but I wanted to make sure that I was.
Yeah, so we
Thank you.
have this all kind of spelled out in lots of charts, so you can see exactly what those increases are. But this is just to kind of simplify what that is.
Yep.
So,
Perfect. Thank you. That answers my question.
great.
Anybody else?
I have a question.
Alexandra?
I'm just curious if you've gotten any response from the community groups using the spaces, if they've noticed the change, or if they've complained about it or anything like that?
Certainly notice, but also there's that understanding because we do work to keep those rates as low as possible and are, stepping this up over a 3-year period. So it's not just that, $10 an hour hit right off the bat. So certainly noticing and, everyone's feeling those increases across the board. But I have not heard of a lot of negativity around that.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I do have one more question. Kristen, is the rental fee negotiated by the individual schools, or is it done through your office?
It's done through our facility use department.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, now I'm on track here. 7.4, negotiations. There they are.
So I'm still here.
I know, crazy. Madam President, School Board, Dr. Schaefer, Bill Sabers, Chief Human Resources Officer. I'm accompanied by Andy Chrisman, the President of Thompson Education Association. We're here tonight to give you an update on negotiations. So the purpose is we met on April 6th and April 7th, and Mr. Crispin and myself will cover the different days. This presentation will cover Strive 2025 focus area number 3, human talent, investigate areas and compensation and benefits so that TSD is competitive. And I'll say that again, compensation and benefits so TSD is competitive.
One more time.
Investigate areas in compensation and benefits to be competitive. So at this time, I'll turn over to Andy. He's covering April 6th, and then I'll cover April 7th.
Hi again. So on April 6th, we got an overview on the state budget from Gordon Jones. And we spent most of our day talking about, began our day going through story interests and options on compensation, and recruit and retain, I should say, the question number 2. After we went through that, we split into 2 small groups and spent a good part of our day working on straw designs on both question number 2, which is the recruit and retain question, and question number 4, which is how do we ensure that teachers are well prepared to deliver high quality instruction. And we did a lot of good work in kind of narrowing down and going through our options and figuring out, evaluating our options in terms of what might be doable and what might not be. And I think that's a very high level summary of the day.
Was there a question? Okay.
I was giving a visual for high level.
Okay,
As
go
high
ahead.
as I can reach.
I thought it was, here, call on me. And then the 7th, so the 7th we continued the conversations, and it was really deep conversations within both of the groups, and Andy and I are in the compensation part. We did have a tentative agreement, large group approved both. So for the question number 4 is how do we ensure educators are well prepared to deliver high quality instruction on a daily basis? There was a proposed that following line from 16-1-3A is removed from the MOU. So EdCamp will be offered as an opportunity during this time. So what we did was remove that. And the history behind EdCamp was we put EdCamp in place because we didn't have professional development days. So the progression of the following years, like adding the 5 professional development days, kind of defeats the purpose of EdCamp, and it was basically voluntary. So we had about 20% of our teachers would attend. It's more like voluntary. So replacing that, we kept it in the MOU and realized that our effort is spent on the PD days where we can kind of take EdCamp away. And then propose first Wednesday of the month to ensure that's consistent and clearly embedded in Wednesday AMP PD plan so that these days are protected for job-like professional learning time. So we're having conversations around that, of what that looks like. We have the 4 Wednesdays for late start. So having one of those days, one of each month is for specialties where you have your GT teachers meeting, you have ESS meeting, and so on and so forth. And then basically we're just having just a lot of continued conversations. We definitely invite the board for the next 2 meetings, which are next Thursday and Friday, 27th and 28th, in the boardroom from 8 to 4 o'clock. And then we'll start talking about questions 3 and 5. And 5 has multiple parts, where it's more about cleanup about the MOU and the intention of MOU. And that is, in closing, that is it for this evening's negotiation update.
Let's see if there's questions. Art, do you have questions? I can't see clear down there, but I don't think so.
No.
Okay. No. Thank you, you two.
So sweet.
Yeah. All right. We have one written report that's attached, which is our monthly financial report. Are there future agenda items and request information that you might have?
I have one. I would like to see if it's possible if we could get either at a study session or a regular meeting or 2+2, a presentation from the educational special needs department to really help go through and explain what are all the difference between IEP, 504, what are the rules? We received, I think, all of us, different emails from different families and teachers. Like I had to look up what EBD is. I mean, there's all these things that I think we're responsible for it, but it would help if we knew more about it.
Okay, I think those might be good topics, or a good topic for 2+2 meetings, might be worthwhile. We'll
Okay.
check, we'll chat as we do our planning.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Nancy. Anybody else? All right, since there are no further items, meeting is adjourned.